My older sister, Daisy, was the first college grad from our village. But because she didn't want to get married, our parents forced her into this women's morality school. They said she was sick and needed to be cured, claiming it was for her own good. But then Daisy was tortured to death in there, and they couldn't even find a full body. Our parents were too ashamed to even demand justice for her. The head of the school just laughed like a maniac. She dared to fight back, so she got what she deserved, right? He sneered. That bitch had it coming. Her life was so cheap. We didn't even have to pay anything when she died. So satisfying. She deserved to be messed with by us. But he had no idea that Daisy had a twin sister. A ghost. And since a ghost can't break the law by killing, I wasn't going to let anyone who forced my sister to her death get away with it. Daisy and I had the same face, but we were total opposites. She was gentle, kind, and a great student, the first college graduate from our village. I was dark, crazy, and never went to school. I hadn't even been outside our pig pen. Because I was born a ghost. No pulse but still alive. When my mom gave birth to me and saw me like that, she almost had my dad throw me down a well to drown me. But the village shaman stopped my dad just in time. She said, "This girl is a ghost. You can't kill her, and you wouldn't be able to anyway. If you try, her anger will just grow, and you won't be able to control it. It will definitely affect you." But she added, "Don't worry, as long as her twin sister is alive, everything will be fine." The shaman had a lot of influence in the village. After hearing that, my parents never thought about killing me again. But they hated me and feared me even more. They didn't want to admit their daughter was some kind of monster, so they always told everyone they only had one daughter, Daisy. And ever since I was born, I was thrown into the pig pen, fighting pigs for food. They chained me to a post with a heavy, hard iron chain, terrified I'd run off if they weren't careful. Growing up, only Daisy would sneak in to see me. Every night, after my parents were asleep, she'd talk to me through the door. Even though we had the same voice, hers sounded so much nicer. She knew I was curious about the outside world, so she'd often tell me stories. She'd also save all her pocket money to buy me candy and snacks. Nobody knew that Daisy was the one who named me. She wanted me to be safe and sound my whole life, so she named me Annie. We looked like strangers, but we were the most important people to each other. It was our secret. So when I heard my parents talking through the door, saying Daisy had graduated college and was coming home, I was thrilled. But I never expected that as soon as she got back, they'd have a huge fight. Through the crack in the door, I saw my dad pointing at Daisy, yelling, "What did you say? Do you dare to repeat that? Not getting married? Look at all the women in this village, they're all married and having kids by 16 or 17. Did studying make you stupid? The village chief's son is willing to propose. That's a huge honor for you. If you hadn't gotten into college, I would have sold you to that idiot in the next village to teach you a lesson." Daisy tried to argue, but my mom didn't give her a chance. She just sat down by the courtyard gate and started crying, complaining, "Why is my life so hard? I raised her for so many years, only to get this ungrateful brat. Not getting married? This is going to be the death of me. How am I supposed to live the rest of my life? I can't even imagine what the villagers will think of me, what they'll say behind my back. Why don't you just kill me, huh?" My mom's scene got all the neighbors' attention. Villagers love drama, and soon our doorstep was packed with people. Among them, a sharp-tongued woman started stirring things up, her words dripping with malice. She said in a sarcastic tone, "Oh, going to the big city for school really does change you, huh? Coming back, they all think they're superior, and don't want to get married. Isn't that hilarious? By her age, I'd already given birth to 3 kids for my husband. I say, isn't she just mentally ill? She needs to be cured. I heard there's some kind of women's morality school in the city that works wonders. Any woman who goes in comes out a good wife and loving mother. Why don't you send her there to get fixed?" My parents' eyes lit up when they heard this. They immediately started asking for details, eager to send Daisy to that school. Daisy was stunned, her eyes instantly welling up with tears of injustice. I didn't know what that women's morality school was, but seeing Daisy's expression, I knew it couldn't be good. Even though news in our village was scarce, places like that were easy to find out about. Soon, someone in the village provided contact information. An old man said that a few years ago, He bought a woman from outside to be his wife, and when she resisted, he sent her to that school for re-education. After she came back, she was incredibly obedient. She'd do whatever he wanted. My parents were even happier hearing the old man's story, and immediately pulled out their phones to make the call. Even though the cost wasn't cheap, my parents didn't care. They only wanted a normal daughter, or rather, an obedient doll. Daisy didn't want to go, but my mom raised her hand and slapped her. She glared at Daisy fiercely. "You stubborn girl, I'm doing this for your own good. Don't you understand? I'm your mother, why would I hurt you? This is a sickness, and it needs to be cured. I'm spending so much money to cure you. If you dare to disobey me, I'll beat you to death." The people from the school arrived quickly. No matter how much Daisy struggled, she couldn't fight off the strength of the entire village and a few burly men in black. Daisy was forcibly taken to that school. And once she was gone, I never heard from her again. I had a nagging bad feeling, wanting to go find her, but the iron chain around my neck wouldn't let me. I didn't have a key, and I couldn't even get out of the pig pen. Maybe it was because Daisy and I were twins, and our souls were connected. That night, I dreamed that Daisy had died. She died horribly. She was tortured to death by several men. Her eyes were gouged out. Her body was covered in whip marks, bruises, and burn marks from electric shocks. Her neck had deep bloody rope marks. Her body was so mangled, they couldn't even put together a complete corpse. After she died, her body was casually thrown under a big tree on the back mountain, left for wild dogs to tear apart. The dream was terrifyingly real, and I woke up in a cold sweat. Half asleep, I heard my parents talking to someone. Peeking through the door crack, I realized the people talking to my parents were the same burly men in black who took Daisy away that day. One of the men looked arrogant, staring down at my dad. What he said made me want to rip his tongue out. "Your daughter, Daisy, is dead. But don't blame us. Who told her to be so cheap? We kindly tried to teach her manners so she could become a proper woman, someone a man would want to marry. But what did she do? That slut tried to seduce us." He continued, "She used some dirty tricks and ended up in our director's bed. When she was caught, she tried to escape but fell from upstairs and died. I know you're sad about your daughter, but it's not our fault, is it? Who would have thought she was so cheap? Of course, you can ask our school for compensation, but then everyone will know what your daughter did. What will the villagers think of her, and what will they think of you? As parents, you should really think about it." After that speech, my parents, who had been furious, suddenly looked embarrassed. My dad's old face turned red, and he mumbled, "What a disgrace. She deserved to die." Then, as if that wasn't enough, he slapped my mom and grumbled, "It's all because of your good-for-nothing daughter. You damn woman. She's a hussy and she's shamed our family. If this gets out, how am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to face the villagers? You dog." My mom was slapped, and she couldn't hold back her emotions anymore. She burst into tears, crying and complaining. "How can you blame me for this? She was so obedient at home. She only went bad after going to school. She didn't learn anything good, just how to be a seductive temptress." She added, "I should have never let her go to school. It's all your fault for being so vain. It would have been better if she had just gotten married early." My mom was about to say more, but then my little brother started crying from inside the room. My mom always treated him like a precious treasure, so as soon as she heard him cry, she didn't care about anything else. She immediately told the big man, "She's dead now and she deserved it. We won't pursue this, and you shouldn't tell anyone. We'll just pretend nothing happened, okay?" The man was pleased to hear my mom say that. He readily promised that the incident would absolutely not be spread. With the man's assurance, my parents rushed off to see my brother without a second thought. I watched my parents' hurried retreating figures, then the smug and arrogant look on the man's face, and a ruthless glint flashed in my eyes. Daisy was dead. And now, no one could suppress the ghostly aura around me anymore. I snapped the iron chain off my neck and quietly crawled under the man's car. I knew my parents cared about their reputation, but I never imagined they'd be so ashamed that they wouldn't even seek justice for Daisy. A living person, tortured to death like that, and her own parents didn't even care. If that's how it was, then I'd send every single one of them to hell to keep Daisy company. As I thought this, the man's car stopped. It pulled up to the entrance of the school's main building. Once everyone was gone, I followed the memories from my dream and walked towards the back mountain. It was already late. The wind was warm, but I felt incredibly cold. I saw that familiar face, covered in blood, lying under the tree, and for a moment, I was afraid to go closer. It was as if, as long as I didn't see the body, Daisy was still alive. I stood before the body for a long time, lost in thought. So long that it was completely dark. Only then did I stand up, move to a different spot, and dig a grave to bury Daisy. After I was done, I followed my memories to the director's office. Maybe Daisy died with too much resentment. Or maybe it was because we were twins. After her death, I inherited all her memories from her time at that school. I wouldn't let any of those scumbags who killed her get away. When I reached the director's office, the lights were still on. Through the window, I could see 5 or 6 people scattered inside. They were drinking and playing cards. They laughed as they played. Man, you wouldn't believe it. Today when I went to Daisy's house, her parents were so funny. As soon as they heard Daisy had shamed them, they immediately stopped pursuing the matter. The director really knows how to pick him. He knew playing with this kind of woman would be pointless because no one would stand up for her. Hearing this, the director laughed even more wildly. That bitch dared to resist back then, so she got played to death, right? Serves her right. That slut's life was truly cheap. We didn't even need to pay compensation when she died. So satisfying. She deserved to be played by us, haha. The rest of them echoed his words. Their comments got uglier and uglier. Just then, a gust of wind blew, and the director's office door suddenly swung open. Everyone instinctively looked my way and froze. As we stared at each other, I tilted my chin up slightly. Had enough laughs? I asked. Silence. A deathly silence. The men were terrified, trembling and unable to utter a single word. After a long moment, one of the burly men pointed at me. You're not dead, are you? He stammered, looking like he was about to cry. I touched the rope marks on my neck, left by the iron chain, and laughed manically. Dead. Oh right, I am dead. You strangled me to death, actually. Now close your eyes, I said. A ghost is about to kill. With that, I grabbed the neck of the man closest to me. Without Daisy to suppress me, I had become a true evil spirit. My strength was beyond human imagination. A 6-foot-tall muscular man was lifted off his feet by my grip on his neck. I knew this man, his name was David. Back when Daisy was struggling desperately, he was the one who suggested they spice things up. He said it would be more exciting. So he used a rope to strangle Daisy, laughing as he watched her struggle, until finally she died by his hands. He just spat on her and called her a weak bitch. Now David was choking, struggling endlessly, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break my grip. Watching him thrash, I smiled. How's that for exciting? You love excitement, don't you? This is pretty exciting now, why aren't you laughing? Go on, laugh. My hand was cold, and I had no pulse. It felt like a dead person's hand. So, the man's already terrified face twisted even more when he realized I had no pulse. He even peed himself in fear. What he managed to say was tinged with tears. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please spare me. If you let me live, I'll do anything. Please. Hearing David say that, I raised an eyebrow. I repeated his words playfully. You'll do anything? Then I said, then go kill them. Kill them, and I'll let you live. With that, I loosened my grip, and David collapsed to the floor. He clutched at his collar, gasping for air, but a hint of murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he looked at the others. The rest of the men were stunned by what I'd just done. The director reacted first, slapping David, but not daring to even look at me. He just snarled at David, "Are you crazy? You think she'll let you go if you kill us? What a joke. We all did this together. She just wants us to turn on each other. Do you really believe her ghostly words? I say, if we killed her once, we can kill her a second, third, countless times. There are 5 of us. Are we afraid of one pathetic woman? Have you all lost your minds? Can't you even figure that out?" The director, being the director, naturally had some authority. When he got angry, no one dared to speak. After a moment, David broke down and said, "But she's already dead. She's a ghost." How do we kill a ghost? If I don't do what she says, she'll really kill me. Seeing that David was truly considering killing them, the director panicked a bit. After all, David was the youngest and strongest among them. If he wanted to kill him, it would be effortless. So even the composed director couldn't help but yell, "Snap out of it. How can there be ghosts in the world? Right, she must be someone else in disguise. Daisy died a long time ago. She's completely gone. Her body is probably rotting by now. How could she come back for revenge? Who knows if Daisy even had a twin sister?" Before the director could finish, another man suddenly pointed at me. He said weakly, "But look, she doesn't have a shadow." Everyone followed his gaze to the space behind me, and a chill ran down their spines. Cold sweat beaded on their foreheads. That's when they truly became afraid. They understood clearly that the person standing in front of them was truly a ghost. It was Daisy, back for revenge. In an instant, everyone panicked. I, of course, noticed I had no shadow and couldn't help but inwardly mock myself. Without Daisy, I really was becoming more and more like a ghost. But that was fine, only a ghost could take revenge without restraint. After all, how could a ghost killing someone be considered a crime? With David leading the way, the other men also knelt down, begging me to spare them. They said they'd do anything, that it was all the director's orders, that the director had figured out Daisy's parents' personalities and knew that even if they went too far, nothing would happen, which is why they got involved. It was all the director's fault. The director stood alone in the middle of the room. Seeing everyone pushing the blame onto him, he wanted to kill them on the spot to appease my wrath. The director finally lost it. He started cursing. "Now you're all trying to put the blame on me? What were you doing at the beginning? I wasn't the only one who killed Daisy. You and you and you are all murderers." Watching them turn on each other, I laughed. I laughed so loudly. My eerie demeanor instantly scared the men into silence. In the entire room, only I was laughing so hard I couldn't stand straight. After a while I grew tired of laughing. I stopped smiling, looked at them with a mocking expression, and said playfully, "You need to understand, my patience is limited. Of course I won't kill you all. Let's play a game. Do to each other what you did to me. For example, the director messed with me, so you guys can mess with him too. But remember, only one of you 5 can survive. And the playing field is this entire school. So now let the games begin." As soon as I finished speaking, I snapped my fingers. Instantly, all the lights in the school came on, and the other staff members temporarily lost consciousness. Everything that happened at the school tonight would only exist in our 6 memories. As soon as the game started, the once harmonious group of 5 immediately became hostile enemies. In this game, only the winner would live. They were all competitors. David made the first move. He kicked the director over, and seeing this, the others immediately turned their aggression towards the director too. The director, a man over 50, looked at the 4 young men eyeing him like tigers, eager to kill him, and his face went pale with fear. He kept repeating, "Don't come closer, don't come closer. Are you crazy? Are you really going to listen to her?" Before the director could finish, a middle-aged man named Peter went up and slapped the director so hard it knocked out one of his teeth. Just as Peter was about to pin the director down further, the director narrowed his eyes and stabbed a chopstick into Peter's eye. Before Peter could retreat, the director immediately gouged out his other eye. The remaining men didn't expect the director to be so ruthless, and for a moment, no one dared to step forward. Peter, blinded, ran around in agony. Perhaps it was karma for all the evil he had done. Peter accidentally stepped on an empty wine bottle on the floor, lost his footing, and fell out of a 6-story window. Peter died. I looked at the 4 remaining people in the room and subtly curved my lips. "One," I murmured. Peter was the one who had gouged out Daisy's eyes. He said he hated the way she looked at him. Even when she was dying, her eyes still held such contempt, as if he was trash, dog poop, and he hated nothing more than for people to look at him that way. So he didn't hesitate to blind Daisy, so she could never look at him like that again. Now he was reaping what he sowed. With the director's example, the others seemed to snap out of it and started attacking each other. And this building became their battlefield for escape and slaughter. When Daisy first arrived at the school, the teachers constantly brainwashed her. They told her, "A woman lives to marry and have children. Otherwise, she's not worthy of being human. As a woman, you must first understand your value, which is to make men happy. A life without marriage is incomplete, imperfect. They also said, "Why were you beaten?" It's because you didn't do well enough. If you could serve your husband well and make him happy, why would he scold you or hit you? You need to reflect on yourself. Come on, now treat me as your husband and serve me. If Daisy resisted, she would be whipped and electrocuted. They locked her in a dog cage and used a loudspeaker to repeat these phrases over and over in her ear, eventually making her repeat them herself. In just 1 month, Daisy's arms were almost rotted from the electric shocks. So it was only fitting that the man responsible for brainwashing Daisy and punishing her with electric shocks was electrocuted to death by his partners, who shoved an electric baton down his throat. His whole body smelled burnt. I followed behind them, watching them slaughter each other, their true savage natures revealed. I watched them ruthlessly kill their former brothers and partners, using any means necessary. Tears streamed down my face from laughing. "Daisy," I whispered, "look how ugly these people are. They'll do anything to survive. This is karma, the karma for killing you. Is the fear they feel now just like what you felt when you were dying?" Daisy wanted to live too. Thinking of this, I quietly wiped my tears and held up 2 fingers. "2," I said. "2 people are dead." The game continues. The ruthlessness of the remaining people didn't disappoint me. The director was tortured to death by David and another man named Tom. As if to please me, they replicated the torments they inflicted on Daisy onto the director. The director's screams echoed through the entire hallway. Finally, David strangled the director with a rope, ending the scumbag's miserable life. The director was dead. But I only felt relief. If he hadn't had such malicious intentions, Daisy wouldn't have been hurt. People like him were utterly depraved, caring nothing for ordinary lives. Daisy wasn't the only woman who died at his hands. He simply preyed on them because they had no one to back them up, just tools for him to make money off of, so he could toy with them as he pleased. This kind of scumbag's death alone wasn't enough to appease the anger of all those wronged souls. As for the last 2, who would survive? David probably never imagined that the moment after he strangled the director, Tom would wrap his hands around his neck. Tom looked meek and hadn't contributed much to the killing spree. But at that moment, his eyes were more vicious than anyone else's. And while David was strong, he had already wasted too much energy. In their struggle, David bit off one of Tom's ears. He even used a knife to stab one of Tom's legs. But in the end, Tom survived. David was strangled to death. Everything they had done to Daisy had come back to them. The once clean and tidy building had become a morgue. The hallway reeked of blood. Only Tom remained standing in the middle, covered in blood. The man saw me looking at him and forced a smile that was uglier than a cry. "Are you satisfied now?" he asked. "I hope you keep your word. I won this game, you can't kill me." I nodded. The next second, a sinister smile spread across my face. "Of course, I won't kill you," I said. "But I won't let you live either." Hearing this, Tom's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean?" he yelled. "You dared to trick us? You liar." Hearing Tom's accusation, I looked at him with amusement. "Skoffet. Should I call you naive? I'm an evil spirit, and you actually believed a ghost's words? Ha ha, how funny, truly hilarious." Just as I finished speaking, police sirens wailed in the distance. Tom was arrested. He was charged with intentional homicide, no way out. Even though Tom desperately explained that he didn't want to do any of it, that a ghost forced him, no one believed him. Because the surveillance cameras clearly showed the 5 of them fighting each other. And in the end, Tom won and survived. As for me, cameras only capture people, right? How could they capture a ghost? Besides, they were the ones who killed each other. I didn't lay a hand on anyone. Now that the people at the school were dealt with, it was time for me to go home and see my wonderful parents. I wonder what their expressions would be when they saw me. Daisy was tortured to death at that school. She hated that place. So in the middle of the night, I carried her body all the way back to the village. I walked until dawn, reaching the mountain behind the village. From a distance, I saw an old woman waving at me from the mountaintop, as if she knew I would come. As I got closer, I realized it was the village shaman. Back then, the shaman's words, that killing me would bring disaster to my family, and that Daisy could suppress my ghostly aura, so they didn't need to worry about me, had saved my life. But there was a second half to her prophecy that she deliberately omitted. And that was, if Daisy died, I would die too. Without Daisy's suppression, I became a true evil spirit, and ghosts cannot survive in the human world. Now the more I resembled a ghost, the less time I likely had left to live. The shaman must have sensed this, waiting for me there early. Seeing me, the shaman smiled kindly. I know what you want to do, she said. Go ahead and do it. You can leave the aftermath to me. I didn't speak. I just quietly started digging a grave. Daisy used to tell me she loved the scenery on the back mountain, and said she'd bring me to see it someday. So I buried her there. Standing before Daisy's grave, I placed her prettiest photo on it. Looking at her bright, familiar face, my eyes welled up. Daisy, you're a liar, I whispered. You said we'd see the back mountain together. You broke your promise. I was so silly, believing you when you said you'd take me away someday, and we'd be together forever for our whole lives. But it's okay, Daisy. I'll be able to join you soon. When I got home, the first thing I saw was my little brother playing with firecrackers in the yard. In over 20 years of living, this was the first time I'd seen our house properly. How ironic. My brother saw me and immediately yelled into the house, Mom, Dad, my sister's back. He threw a firecracker at me as he yelled, You dirty woman. Why are you so messy? Mom and Dad said you did something shameful, that you're no longer part of this family. Why are you even back? Get out. He continued, Mom and Dad said that when you die, your room, your savings will all be mine. Why aren't you dead yet, you cheap woman? Before he could say more, I slapped him, sending him sprawling to the ground. His butt landed right on a fallen firecracker, which exploded, leaving his backside covered in blood. He screamed and started crying. I coldly glanced at him, uncaring. My brother was already rotten. Since childhood, he'd always cursed Daisy and hit her if she didn't give him money. Everything good belonged to him. And he even said that if Daisy hadn't gone to college, she would have been sold off for money a long time ago. Then the bride price would have been his, and it was all Daisy's fault for going to college and making him poor. In his eyes, Daisy was just an ATM. She had to constantly spit out money for him and for the family, or she wasn't even considered human. This kind of animal deserved to be hit. Hearing my brother's commotion, my parents rushed out, terrified something had happened to their precious son. Seeing him covered in blood, their legs turned to jelly. My dad even lunged at me, ready to slap me. But before his hand could reach my face, I grabbed his wrist, holding it still. My dad's face darkened with rage when he realized he couldn't hit me. He cursed, You animal. Why aren't you dead somewhere out there? Why are you back? Haven't you disgraced us enough? He added, You came back and hurt your brother. You're such bad luck. We should have strangled you when you were born. You useless good for nothing. Hearing my dad curse me like that, my mom didn't defend me at all. Instead, she just sat on the ground and started crying. Oh heavens, why did I give birth to such a heartless thing? Coming back and hitting your own brother? Is that something a human does? She continued, When I heard you died outside, I was so upset, but now I see, you deserved it. You deserved to be played to death. You were born a lowly creature. The courtyard was filled with my mom and dad's insults, mixed with my brother's crying. It was so noisy it was driving me crazy. The next second, I punched the stone table in the middle of the courtyard, shattering it. Silence. An unprecedented silence. My parents looked at me with utter shock. Before they could say anything more, I interrupted them, my voice full of sarcasm. My dear parents, are you really so old and blind that you don't recognize who's standing in front of you? I asked. Did you forget that my sister had a twin sister? I'm certainly not something. I'm a ghost, an evil ghost, in fact. As if realizing who I was, my parents' faces instantly went pale. Their lips trembled with fear. They tried to speak but couldn't utter a single word. But I knew what they wanted to say. They wanted to say, Weren't you locked in the pig pen? Weren't you supposed to be fighting pigs for food every day to survive? Weren't you supposed to hide in a corner like a sewer rat, waiting to die? But then they understood. Daisy was dead, and no one could suppress me anymore. What a vengeful evil spirit would do, they didn't know. and they didn't dare to know. So they were afraid. My parents, who had always been selfish and lived only for their reputation, now bowed their heads to survive. They rarely showed such a fawning smile. Their tone was unusually gentle. "It's Mom's fault," my mom said. "I actually mistook you for that lowly creature. Mom apologizes to you. You must be hungry, right? Mom will make you something to eat. What do you like? Braised pork, right?" Looking at this family's false sincerity, I couldn't even force a smile. "Braised pork is probably what my brother likes, isn't it?" I retorted. "You never raised me for a single day. You probably hated me and wished I was dead, right? And you think you know what I like to eat. You know nothing." I had never received any kindness from my parents growing up, and I didn't think they deserved to be called parents. But I didn't care about that. However, hearing them talk about Daisy like that, I completely lost it. Anyone could curse Daisy or look down on her. But how dare they? How could they possibly say such things about her? Daisy lived her entire life trying to save face for them. When she was little, she got first place in every exam. Because if she wasn't first, she'd be beaten mercilessly when she came home. She wasn't allowed snacks, she had no pocket money, she had to do all the housework for the family, and she had to be pretty and gentle, so she could be something my parents could brag about. In this family, a woman only deserved to live if she could bring them prestige. Someone like me, whom they considered a blemish on their lives, didn't even deserve a name in this household. Now Daisy was dead, and they still called her dirty and shameful, but it was they who forced her into that inhuman place. They used the excuse of doing it for her own good and killed her. And they still had the nerve to condescendingly lecture a dead person. How laughable. Utterly laughable. Thinking about it, I burst out laughing. I laughed harder and harder, going completely crazy. Watching my parents' terrified faces, I slowly stopped smiling. As we stared at each other, I curved my lips. "The shaman already told you, didn't she?" I said. "If you kill me, you'll suffer karma too. Things will go wrong. You'll be plagued by illness and disaster, and your so-called reputation will be trampled and rubbed in the dirt by everyone, forever unable to hold your head up in the village. Remember, your reputation killed me and my sister. You are murderers too." The next second, I lost consciousness. After all this, I truly lost my status as a living person. I died. My soul floated in the air, and in a daze, I seemed to see Daisy waving at me. I smiled and quickly followed her. After I died, the shaman came with everyone from the village. My parents were still reeling from what I said before I died, hating me but also afraid my words would come true. So when they saw the shaman and the villagers, my parents panicked. The shaman's authority in the village had always been higher than the chief's. When she spoke, no one dared to interrupt. She meticulously recounted everything. How my parents had abused me, how they had mistreated Daisy, and how they had abandoned her after her death, desperate to distance themselves. My parents' most despicable side was exposed to the entire village. A family so cruel they could abuse their own daughters, treating them as less than human. The villagers always loved to see others suffer. In an instant, everyone was mocking and scolding my parents. Some even threw rotten cabbage and stinky eggs at them, cursing them as heartless and saying they'd get their comeuppance. My parents had always been so concerned with their image, and my dad passed out on the spot from anger. My mom held her head and cried uncontrollably. Unfortunately, they could only lose consciousness for a moment, they couldn't escape forever. The evil they had done would be repaid to them in the future. They would live but suffer torment. My body was taken by the shaman and buried next to Daisy's. The tombstone read, "Daisy's sister Annie." A year later, a twin flower bloomed by the tombstone, signifying new life after darkness. The end.